record. So there's a hadith from Jafar as-Sadiq, who is probably the most important imam in Shiism, in non-Zaydi Shiism. And he is the nephew of Zayd. And the hadith says that Salman al-Farsi has the highest rank of the believers, other than obviously the Rasul. But the Rasul's kind of its own thing, really. It's not so much a rank that people can reach. And Abu Dar is one level beneath him. And if Abu Dar knew what was in the heart of Salman, he would try to kill him for kufr. Probably shirk and kufr. But who's counting? So this hadith reminds me of a saying, a hadith, you might say, in the Gospel of Thomas from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Not Saleh's Dead Sea Scrolls, the actual Dead Sea Scrolls. And Thomas, in this collection, is the more favored disciple of Jesus Christ, salawatu alayhi wa salam. And he is given a secret lesson. And then the other disciples ask him, what were you told? And he says, if I told you, you would pick up stones to kill me. But then flames would emerge from the stones to consume you. So in other words, of course, they would judge him as being a blasphemer and try to kill him. And they would be wrong, and they would be guilty of murder, and they would be indicted before God for doing so. It's not that complicated to parse. So this idea gives room for people like Abdullah Hashem or some of my Batini Gulati Shia friends who maybe we're not super good friends anymore. But they, would say, well, we're not really doing shirk. What we did is we plugged in the key to the super secret path of theophany. And it looks like we're doing shirk, but that's just because you're on a lower level of faith and you don't get it. So I don't know about all that. Maybe I'm not on that level. However, there certainly are a number of literalists, level 1 believers, who believe that people who take verses in the Quran as metaphor, as is the standard Aqidah of the Asharis, for example, would say that they are Jami kafirs for doing so. So actually this Abu Dar Salman juxtaposition is very much true, and you can, if you want to tune into it and waste time, you can see it on Twitter, where an Ashari will say something about, we should have better drones. And then an Athari will say, you're a Jami kafir, but you steam a good ham. You make a good point. So there are, to my knowledge, at least 7 rankings of Iman. Level 1 is literalist. You're accepting basic axioms, and you are afraid of God, and you are affirming a checklist in order to avoid kufr as you misunderstand it, and to avoid damnation. And oftentimes your good deeds are, as Simon says, performativity, and if you were able to be convinced that divine command theory says to do an evil thing because that's actually God said so, then you would do it. So this can be a problematic thing. it's not actually safe to stay on level 1. So for educated people, they often graduate to level 2, even if their father is level 1. And sometimes they have to apostate and go off and maybe sin and all these things. And then having experienced living in other worldviews, they come back to religion and they come to appreciate it in a new way. So they graduate to level 2. And so religious modernism, when it is not subject to its own excesses of being overly permissive or being overly dismissive of the semiotic value of, irrespective of whether, for instance, the stories in Surah Kaf, it's Juma, remember to listen to Surah Kaf, whether they're historical or they're allegorical, you might not value them enough, right? So these are the downsides of what we would call religious modernism. And we see this in Christianity. And a big part of the Mutazili madhab evolving in a different way than the other madhabs evolved by doing taqlid with Shafi, we're evolving in a different way, inshallah. And that is to temper this modernist instinct. But for anybody who's intelligent and comes of age in this time where you can learn things very easily and any curiosity can be very quickly satisfied, the level 2 of faith is almost a requirement to die on Iman, to spend your adult decades in Islam. So then level 3 is the level of the murid. And so whereas I apostated at 18 and I came back to Christianity at 36, and my faith was deeper in spite of the historical critical method shooting the Bible into bits, I felt even more faithful than ever before because there was something in the noise. There was something, a guidance of the Holy Spirit, a hand on history, civilizing us. And it didn't matter that none of this was, or maybe not all of it anyway, is historical. So then when I became a murid, when I entered Islam, not to say I wasn't within Islam in a looser sense. Before, I wasn't really that Trinitarian on my boomerang back to Christianity. But when I entered into the Quranic covenant on the Lights of Qadr in 2023, I ascended in rank and I experienced a lifetime of worship, and my entrance into the deen of the Quran specifically was wholehearted. I began getting involved. I'm older, so I was able to bring a certain air of adab and maturity that people respected, even though I don't have an ijaza and all of these years of getting used to practicing Islam, and perhaps I'm a bit rough around the edges. So then the murid is the student of a sheikh or a scholar. And this is where I came to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to once again elevate me in rank in the Laylatul Qadr 2024. And then I wrote a book. And in order to qualify to be elevated into this level and begin to teach, and obviously I started this YouTube channel as well after finishing a book. So I'm not just a guy with a YouTube channel. I'm somebody who wrote a book. And then it's like, well, I guess I better create a channel today. I just had a Discord chat with the Rashadeen. and away it went. So in order to qualify for the promotion that I prayed for, it's not just enough to pray at the Hajj time or Laylatul Qadr. You have to do something to qualify. You have to initiate yourself, even if it isn't a complete thing, even if it isn't successful. And so, this last Ramadan of 2025, I once again undertook the same ritual, and I have been initiated into the 5th rank of Iman, which is the rank attained by Ibn Masud radiallahu anhu when he entered the chambers of Muawiyah, may Allah deal justly with him, and told him that you are not a caliph, you are just a malik. And Muawiyah was like, don't I know it, fam? You got me there, Ibn Masud, you old so-and-so. And he could have killed Ibn Masud for that. But sometimes the evil people, they really appreciate a little bit of honesty. And so Ibn Masud was able to continue to teach and to proliferate his Qiyārat, in which the true meaning of Islam is foregrounded through the substitution of the synonym Hanafiya. And probably Ibn Masud knew that this was not the original recitation, but he felt that it was important to teach this Qiyārat because this is a truth that was greatly lost upon the Ummah, even as soon as the dawning of Umayyad Caliphate. And as for the other ranks, I think that this rank is quite intense. I don't think I'll be asking again next year Ramadan. I think I'm busy with the tasks that I have been given. So there's a different model that is not of Iman, but of cognitive modeling, of not necessarily intelligence, but maturity.